All right. Hi, everybody. This is officially week 4's weekly sync for TCL 55. We are now smack in the middle of it, and y'all are making great progress so far. So before we go dive into any formalities, how's everybody doing? Anything interesting, weird, problematic come up? Yeah, you were just handled the merge conflict like a couple hours ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So it wasn't that bad. I think this was something that we mentioned. I don't remember if it was like during our office hours, but I think Jeremiah mentioned it. It was basically on the list component where the function, the export or the props that it was going to take got updated. I think our original was only taking data and then yours was taking data and then I think list ID, right? Because we need to pass that along to the list item. So that came up as a merge conflict, and it's pretty obvious which one we should keep, right? Because we need the list ID in order to make the list item component actually work. So I kept yours and then just merged it back. I think there was like some magic going on behind the backgrounds where if you read the commits carefully, I think it says I merged main into my branch first and then I merged it back. So that I didn't like do any git stuff. I basically did all the merge resolution in GitHub. So that commit was auto created for me, just an FYI.
Sounds like it should have been fine. But otherwise, you got it in and like felt good. And, well, I think that we got a little preview of that because we talked about Catherine's Git funness in office hours earlier in this week. And I think that she'd accidentally pulled in and gotten a preview of the merge conflict on locally. So, kind of knew it was coming, but good. We got that all kind of wrapped up. Anything else happen in the last little bit?
Yeah. I can talk about it. So the thing that we talked about in office hours about like the redirect and then the like state in one of our components getting reset. The fix that I thought I had isn't as like smooth, I guess, as I'm not sure. So the current issue, as far as I can tell, is that using a loader in our routing to navigate to a page based on like whether or not we have a list token, I think it's running like more often than it should, or not more often than it should, but like something's going on there where whenever you add an item to the list from the add item page, since we have state updating in the parent component in like app.jsx, it's like resetting the state in the children components. So like that message that pops up that says like the item was successfully added doesn't show at all because like the state in that child is getting reset. So yes. So the only fix that Catherine and I really found was to like go back to the way that we were doing it before and then just accept that there's like that like aesthetic, like the little flicker when you go from like list to home. Yes, so, and then I can show us what that looks like if we want.
Yeah.
Also, like the problem
Jeremiah,
and then
I have
the,
a question to follow up. So you said that the moment you converted the routing back to the way it was, that problem went away, right?
the message problem, yes.
Okay.
Like the message not showing up.
So I actually found another problem while I was trying to follow along when I was reviewing Catherine and Jeremiah's PR, and I didn't bring it up because I felt like it was not really related, and I tried to debug it myself and I can't resolve it. But what's happening, and I don't know if this is related, but it is related to the component getting refreshed, where now you know how like we have the filter bar, right? If I filter something and I check that, it's been purchased, right? My expectation is that the filter bar would stay the same and the filter list would stay the same, but it's actually refreshing the whole thing as well. And this makes sense because we're calling, I think, update item in the back. And so it's kind of refreshing the data. And I know we have like a hook, right? The snapshot where it updates if there's a change in the back end. So that makes sense. But I thought about different ways of fixing this, where originally I moved the data state from app all the way down to list, and it was still happening. And I also tried reverting, because I know Jeremiah, you mentioned, changing the routing back, right? I did both things, and none of those things fixed that.
So we have a little bit of stuff going on with our state on the component and a flicker and showing of the message. Stuff we're kind of talking about makes sense when you change state on a parent component. I would kind of expect that to propagate down to the children and invoke changes. So I think there's probably ways of dealing around it. So the state that we're in now is the message hits the requirement, but we still just have a flickery situation going on. Or is the message getting completely wiped out still?
On main, the message is getting completely wiped out.
Okay. Cool. So we have a bug, and we have a bug in the current system as it is at the moment. Cool. All right. And then, yeah, we're trying some stuff with moving some state up and down the components and see what we can do with. So we have a thing we might want to get to fix here pretty soon. Let's talk about that a little bit more in planning. For the time being, let's look at the state of the issues that we had and how they're existing on main. So we have the two stories. The first one was the welcoming prompt by Tisha and Yao. Does one of you want to take the wheel and show us what you got going on there?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Sure.
All right, can you all see it okay? Okay, so our
Yes.
issue was adding a welcoming prompt to add the first item of the list with empty. And what we did was add a button on the list page that redirects the user to the add item page. And since this was pretty simple and quick to implement, we also went ahead and added a feature to add a null placeholder item to when you're creating a new list so that we can share empty lists. So this is how it looks now as we've implemented it. This is the new list with no items, and then we can just go ahead and click add item to get to this page. And then I'm also just gonna go ahead and clear my list value. So that we can see that that empty list can be joined and it works as intended. So going back to the code that we implemented. First, after the original scope of the issue was to add that add items. So we had this handle first item is using use navigate to go to the add item page. And the way we added that was checking the length of the data to see if it was 0, and if there were no items, then we would display this. Otherwise, if there was data in the list, then it would show the list or the filtering. And when we were discussing this, we were talking about how to render it, and decided on showing it as like this kind of conditional instead of a ternary, which we also briefly discussed. And we felt that it's more legible the way that we have it in the component to have it this way. But if we did decide to like encapsulate this into their own components, then we go with a ternary statement just to make it more concise. And then back to the home page, we went ahead and added this placeholder variable and then did a check if the null item did exist, and then we would go ahead and create that list. And then otherwise we would set this error, and we didn't find any cases where we would get the error with the way that the function is written, but if we were putting in bad inputs, then we would get to that. And then as Devin suggested, originally we had the list filtering in the list component to see if there was a null item, but then went into Firebase. And then I tried this, but was running into some issues. And then Yao pointed out that the filtering should be added after data and on this return of the document collection. So that works now. Thanks, Yao, for adding that in.
Cool. I think that all made sense. Everything looks like it's doing kind of what it's supposed to. I think like ternaries in my mind are usually great for, you know, one-liners, very simple statements where you kind of know what's going on. And if you have big blocks of stuff, I'm always a fan of keeping them sort of separate in a way that's a little bit more legible. So I appreciate that little decision. But otherwise, everything else kind of looked like that was good. And you said you had a little bit of a challenge with the filtering bit, but you got it taken care of. Anything else that was a particular challenge or, you know, tricky thing that you ran into?
I don't think, yeah, did you have anything else?
All right. Well, excellent job. Thank you very much. And with that, and talk about Jeremiah or Catherine, one of you guys want to grab the wheel and show us what's up with your issue? Marking the app as, or marking the item as purchased.
Yes, I can do that. And then can I jump on the like ternary thing really quick?
Sure.
Just like a thought about it is like since 0 and empty strings are both falsy, sometimes it can be better to use a ternary if you want that to show up, even if it's 0 or an empty string, like whatever the variable is that you're checking. Because with like the and you'll never get like the second part. Okay. So Catherine and I were working on marking items on the list page. I'm looking for the, I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. So here we have a shopping list. I think it's just my test list. And yes, so we're on my test list, and the goal is to be able to render items with a semantic label. And then we want to use some functions that we have and some properties on our like list item, like on the items that are potentially on the shopping list, update those when we check the checkboxes in our UI. And then we want the item to be shown for 24 hours after a purchase is made. So after you check the checkbox. And then the update item function in Firebase has been filled out and sends updates to the Firestore database when an item is checked. And then we didn't do anything for if it's unchecked. So on this page, you have a lot of items that we've all been adding to the list over time. And then if you click on either the item name or if you click in the checkbox, then it marks them as checked. And then you can't uncheck them. As called by Yao. At first all of them had like the same for and the same like ID. So no matter which one you hovered, the top one had like the lighter color, but we changed that in our code. So to get that to work, we had to pass down the list ID to our list since we were going to be updating it on Firebase. And then inside Firebase, our API, we had to add in a few of the built-in or like functions that they provide for you. So we added increment and we added update doc since we're updating a document. And then a part of the criteria was like updating the number of times that you've purchased an item. So they have this increment function that we're using. And then so update doc is updating the item that we are purchasing to have the date last purchased as whenever they click the checkbox. And then the way the increment built-in function works is you can either, you just like pass in a number, it can be positive or negative, and then it changes the number on Firebase by that amount. So if you pass in 1, then it will go up by 1. And then on the front end in the UI, we are bringing in that function that we filled out, and then we're bringing in a new utility function is within last day. And so whenever you click on the checkbox or on the label, it does handle purchase, which if you're checking the box, then it uses update item. And then to tell whether or not the item is checked, we're using that utility function is within last day, and we're feeding in the date that the item was last purchased. And is within last day is figuring out what 1 day ago would be in seconds. Date purchased in seconds is date.seconds. So date is this date last purchased. Date last purchased has 2 fields on it. One of them is I think it's like the epoch time in seconds. So this is just making sure that they're both in the same like unit. And then we're just returning true or false on whether or not it's within a day. And then here is where we're adding in the list ID that we're feeding down from app.jsx.
Looks like you're already getting used to having fun with time in code, which only gets more fun over time. No pun intended. It's one of those things that just constantly pops up in struggle. You know, kind of no matter where you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Any particular struggles that you ran into with this? The ID thing's a good catch. I think it's pretty common. Gotchas. Oh no, I have too many elements on the page with the same ID. There should only be one. Anything else come along that was tricky?
That was a little bit tricky because we didn't catch it the first time. Y'all had to point it out, and then like giving it a name that seemed reasonable was also, I don't know, this was the best I could come up with because I was thinking like the only way that it's truly going to be unique is to use the ID until we make it to where the user can't add more than one of the same like item to their list, which I'm pretty sure is something that we're doing in the future. So initially I was thinking of like just using the name, but that didn't seem like that wouldn't fit the way that it works right now. So that was like an interesting question that was kind of in my head. And then yeah, just the date stuff was like kind of tedious to figure out because it was, you know, like when you're doing like getting a date in JavaScript, it's usually in like milliseconds. But Firebase gives it to you in seconds. And then just like math, like I didn't have this in parentheses at first. So Catherine and I were both staring at it like, why is it always returning true? It's because we were just dividing the 1 day in milliseconds by 1,000 instead of the whole thing. So yeah, I would say like those 2 things for me were the tricky bits. It was cool that Firebase had this increment function. I think Catherine found that. So we didn't have to pull in the number of, you know, times that the item had been purchased. Like we didn't have to feed in that data or anything. They just have something on there and that increments it, which I think makes sense for databases because like if more than one person was clicking on that on their end, you wouldn't want it to be updating like from different values, that kind of thing. You want to function on a database for that. Catherine, did you have anything that you thought was tricky or?
Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Still on mute. Okay.
Sorry, my computer just freaked out and I can hear you guys, but I couldn't see anything anymore. So I was like, my light is on and I was like trying to, I don't know what the hell it just did. Sorry.
Zoom like minimized earlier and it only had like one camera and I was like, why is it doing that? What did I press?
But like my whole screen, like, I don't know. I like literally it like went like, I don't know what you call that, but it was like the purpley thing. And I was like, oh my God, my computer's breaking. Sorry. I just had a mini panic attack. I was like,
All
can't
good.
get a new computer. No, I mean, I think this was actually, I'm glad that I told Jeremiah, I'm glad that Jeremiah drove on this one. Because when I first started to look into it on my own, I was like going a different direction in my head before connecting with the API, like using a hook to try to make sure it didn't refresh. We actually might end up needing to use that in the future for not refreshing the component. But since we're connecting, once we connected to Firebase, it kind of eliminated that issue, obviously, because we're pulling that field or attribute directly from Firebase. So I'm kind of glad that he drove, because it was it's great to sort of see how his brain thinks and stuff like that. So he's a lot quicker than I am. So
Awesome. All right. Well, good job, all of you. Excellent work again this week. I'm going to quickly transition because I realize we're taking a little bit more time than I wanted with demos to get us into the retro mode. So I'm going to hand that over now.
Thanks, Lyle. I'll share my screen. So I have shared the link of this retro in the chat, and we are like already aware of the drill last time retro. So we would, as a team, go over like what appreciations we have, like to celebrate the successes that we had last 2 weeks. Everybody, we can all pitch in and point out that we can discuss what went well as a team, and whatever last retro we planned in action items, if some of it we achieved and it went well, we can point out that too. And we can think over and discuss like what could be improved past 2 weeks, if there are any challenges or the way that we have been working. If there is anything to improve in the process, we could point that out. And on basis of that, like we can create action items for the coming like weeks for us, for the coming sprints. So yeah, we will take 5 minutes. Let's all go and add our views. It'll take 2 more minutes. A little less than that. Are we all done? Awesome. No action items. At least we'll try to continue the good work we have been doing.
Unless we come up with something talking through things, but
Mhm.
nothing
Sure.
came to mind.
Sure. So let's go one by one. So appreciations, Catherine. I'll just call up name. You can go ahead. And
Okay.
Mhm.
So thanks to the whole team for during office hours, helping me like figure out my GitHub issue. So thanks everyone.
awesome. Yao.
Yeah, so this week during office hours, I was asking Lab about how to debug React because most of the time I just use console.log, and I was concerned because React compiles from JavaScript, so I figured there wasn't any way for us to like use breakpoints, but he taught us how to do that.
That's great. Tisha.
Shweta, I appreciate you taking the time to reach out and send me those links when I couldn't make it to office hours last week.
You're welcome. Jeremiah.
You're muted, Jeremiah.
Uh,
Sorry, I was double muted. Yeah, Catherine's like always prepped and ready to meet, and she's always done like the research and that kind of thing. So I just appreciate that. Like last week when we were partnered up after the call, we talked, or it may have been before the call even, we talked about like when we were gonna meet, and then she's like, okay, I have some reading to do tonight. And I was like, okay. So
That's awesome. Catherine, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So thanks for Tisha for stepping in to finish up the issues we had and fixing everything up, even though because I was traveling last Saturday and Sunday. So thank you, Tisha.
Jeremiah again.
Yeah, Lyle just seems very knowledgeable about like everything coding, which is cool to have as like a resource, office hours and these in Slack. Yeah, like any question from like authentication, which is like what he does, in the day-to-day, to like all the GitHub stuff that Catherine was the one who was having the issue. But I feel like I learned a lot about how to use VS Code even, which is something that I use like all the time. So it's cool to be around.
You should hear all the stuff I don't know.
Great. So Tisha.
Catherine, thanks for taking the time to meet even when you were on a whole vacation with your family. I appreciated you. Just going through everything together. And since I have the next one, thank you to Yao for looking into that API call because I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. Thanks for getting to that solution.
Awesome. Catherine.
So thank you to Jeremiah, because he'll always take a second, even though he's got a full-time job, to show me something new or even something cool that he's working on. And for also, I just remember dealing with me having to pause our pair programming because my daughter would not take a nap. So thanks for that. And then the next one to Shraddha for sitting down with me last week to talk through the form behavior, also because I was not on office hours. So that was really, really helpful. Thank you, Shraddha.
You're welcome. So we have lots of appreciations. Now let's go. What went well with our team the past 2 weeks? Yeah.
Yep. So I mentioned, I think this came from Catherine's action item from the last retro where we said we want to review some of our work before submitting it to, the other groups for review, just because some of the issues, we could have caught after we reviewed it. Because sometimes like we're working, on these pretty late at night and then we just want to get the work done and then we think everything's fine, but easy errors that could have been caught, which I feel like this time we're kind of doing those.
The next one, I'm not sure who is that. I could read it out.
Sorry, that was me. It's basically saying the same thing, pausing and regrouping after the initial MVP of our code to see if we can make any tweaks and I think we did a good job of that this week and last week, like just taking a pause.
That's great. So basically we implemented what we had in our action items last retro. Tisha?
I think we've done a really good job with the pair programming, with communicating, and even if we have to work asynchronously, to still like go over things together, even with our crazy schedules.
Live.
Just noticing that, especially, at pair review time, everybody's kind of digging in and really trying to critically think about the code, not just the code they're writing that week, but the other team's code and how they're, what might be tripping them up or things they didn't think about. And that's a really good behavior to get in and keep that up.
Great. Devin?
Oh, yeah. So basically echoing Lyle's comment as well. It's just great to see communication and collaboration with everyone as pairs and then just as a team when you all just come in and start, reviewing each other's code and just coming up with very good constructive suggestions for how to improve it. So nice work. Keep it up.
It's always nice to see how our team communicates and pitch in to solve each other's issues. Yeah.
Yeah, so for this last one, I feel like Lyle did mention during our last retro that, there were some questions or issues that, probably should have been caught when we were going over, our tissues, like during this weekly sync. I feel like we've been getting a little bit better at that, trying to think things through, trying to picture like the end result in our mind and then asking questions then and there.
That's great. So now we have a lot to cover in appreciations on what went well. Now, what we could improve in our processes. The first one, it would be nice, and I'm just reading, I'm not sure who has written this. It would be nice if the team got stuck or struggled a little bit more so that we have some stuff to work through.
Yeah, you jerks.
We got bugs now, though. We got 2 of them.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Okay.
Okay. Tisha?
I was also thinking about bugs or things that like might have been left out that we want to implement and when we would have time to go over that. So maybe and I know it's hard because we're not getting things done by the time we're at office hours of the week, but if there are things that are done, maybe it could come up then and then we would have that time to talk about it.
Catherine?
This was just a thought and it may be an action item, but just testing through, I don't know if in the real world this is actually feasible, but testing through the entire app process potentially through after we merge, because then, like we found the issue with the message only after, like during our next week's thing. So like just an idea. It's obviously impossible to test for every little thing, but just trying to think of things to add.
It's like to make sure that we are not breaking anything existing.
Yeah.
Devin?
Yeah, so this is probably just me nitpicking, but generally the code is good. It's easy to read and follow, but there were some points where it was just a bit tricky to, figure out what was going on. But I knew what you all were trying to achieve, so I was able to figure out why. Just be wary of, yes, writing code for others to review, but just be wary of writing code for yourself to look at in, 2 or 3 months and try to figure out what was your thought process then. So just keep those things in mind. 'Cause sometimes revisiting a project after a few months,
Mm.
you're kind of like, what was I doing here? But
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good thing. So team, so what could be our action item? Like something that we can specifically look for in the coming 2 weeks.
Yeah, Devin, I wanted to kind of address your comment. It would be nice if you have an example. Obviously we don't want to burn anybody, but like use it as a good learning experience. And I don't know if you were trying to like point towards, the because I know that at least in real code bases, right, for like really complicated functions, people tend to leave comments, right, just so that you and the other team members are aware what you're doing. I don't know if that's an idea we want to explore.
Mhm.
That's true, Lyle. It's a tiny one, but still, it's a real one.
That's good. Anybody else? No? Okay.
Just doubling up on that. I don't remember writing like a single comment. So maybe working some of those in if I feel like, or if me and my partner that I'm partner or pair programming with think that whatever we're doing is like more tricky than readable. That'd be a good thing to look out for.
Mhm. That's good. Anyone else?
All right, it's muted. I think code reviews are a good time to catch things like readability and stuff. It's always kind of a dance between, do you want to point out, kind of readability stuff, or do you want to point out functional stuff? Because, you don't want to be nitpicky or anything in the middle of it all. But I think, sometimes just being like, hey, it's a little awkward to read or something as we go through. I think it'd be a good time to catch that stuff. So.
That's good. So, anything else? No? We're done? Awesome. So you all are doing great job. And yeah, one of the action item definitely would be like keep working the way you guys are working. It's really nice to see like completely different people who have just got put into the team and they're able to help and they're at least trying to help each other in their like PRs and stuff. That's really neat to see that. So keep it up. Doing great job.
Oh, before we move on, do we want to add an action item since Devin did mention like a specific, I guess like, the code that like where there is a problem is basically in Firebase.js. And if I remember correctly, most of the Firebase.js functions does actually pull from, the API, right? Including some functions there. So maybe it would be helpful for us if we have time, but maybe going forward, just add comments for whatever functions that we create, update, and then that would kind of cover some of the functions that we have already written. Do we want to add that as an action item then? I see nods from Catherine. Jeremiah, Tisha.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Okay. So we going forward, I think we can do that as an action item.
Okay. That's great. So, yep, you're doing good. So I'll just, I think we are done with our retro. If there is anything you guys want to share, we can take a look at it. I'll transfer the thing, I think, to Devin.
all right, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I'm not at my usual desk, so I feel like a bit of a fish out of water. So let's look at this week's issues. We have some very interesting issues again. Number 9, as a user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an empty item or an item that's already on my list. So in summary, users shouldn't be able to add an empty item to their list or add the same item twice. If they try to do this, we need to show them an error message that explains the problem. This way, we'll prevent some of the clutter in their lists. Now, I think we do have some basic functionality as far as this issue is concerned. But just to expand on it a bit more, we want to be able to show an error message if a user tries to submit an empty item. We want to show an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that is identical to an existing name. So for instance, if this contains apples and the user adds apples. We also want to show an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that matches an existing name with punctuation and casing normalized. So for example, the list contains apples, the user adds apples with uppercase P's or with spaces in between. That should prompt the user to, and so it should prompt the user that item already exists. And the user's original input should be saved to the database. So I know that I think we have some error that triggers when the user tries to submit an empty item, but bear in mind that an empty item could also include input with spaces, multiple spaces. Yeah. And there are a couple of ways to approach this task. So if you're not sure how to begin, ask your mentors. Somehow I think you'll have most of this handled already. Let's get on to item 10. So this one might be a bit trickier.
Oh, Devin, before we move on, I actually have
Sure.
a question on that one, just so
Yeah.
that stays fresh. That very last comment where it says user's original input is saved in the database. So, I'm thinking like this, right? If the user types in apples with the big P or like a space in the P, are you saying to save that into the database? I'm kind of confused on the wording.
No, so the original item
Uh-huh.
that should not be overwritten.
So
So
Okay.
the
we're
original
just,
apples. Yeah.
sorry, I was gonna say, so are we just normalizing just for the sake of seeing if it exists and then putting it back to or not putting it back, but just like saving like, we're not gonna change the person's,
Yeah.
we're gonna leave
Original
it the big
entry.
P, we're gonna leave
Yeah.
it the big P or with the punctuation, we're gonna leave it as is.
So it should not overwrite the original entry. So if it's just apples and you add one with a capital P, it should just say this item is already in the database.
So we're not saving any of those like funky inputs into the database, right?
No, because
Okay, we're not.
it should trigger a prompt that this item is already here.
Okay.
Because it is similar in that sense.
Okay, because my
Does that-
thought is where it says the user's original input, I mean, in this case, whatever these weird inputs are, they shouldn't get saved because the original input, for example, apples already exists, right? So we're just saying,
Yes.
hey, it's already exists. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's it. We're good. I
Yeah.
think I'm good.
All right.
Great
And-
question, though, by the way. Like,
Yeah. All right, and issue number 10. So as an item, I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed at the time that my purchase is recorded in the database, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. So in summary, in order to advise users about when to purchase things, the app needs to be able to calculate that guess and store it as a future date. So the calculate estimate function from the shopping list utils module should help us know how many days in the future a purchase should happen. So in order to use a calculate estimate, we need to know how many days have passed since the item was last purchased. All right, so the acceptance criteria. When the user purchases an item, the item's date next purchase property is calculated using calculate estimate and stored to the Firestore database. Note that date next purchased should be saved as a date and not a number. There is a get days between dates function exported from the dates.js file, and that's imported into the Firebase.js. That function will take as input 2 JavaScript dates and retain the number of dates that have passed between them, and you will use that value for the calculate estimate function. All right, we'll get into that in a little bit as well. So working with Firestore's dates, Firestore returns dates as special objects called timestamps. You'll need to convert timestamp to a JavaScript date in order to work with it and complete this feature. The timestamp object has a toDate method and you can see the Firestore docs regarding that. Calculating the time between JavaScript dates. So comparing and manipulating JavaScript dates is notoriously tricky, as Lai was just hinting at. And as a hint, all date objects have a get time method that returns a representation of that date in milliseconds. So I think the idea is just basically you need to make sure that you have the correct units being returned, whether it's seconds or milliseconds that you'll be working in. Yeah. All right. And so regarding that calculate estimate function, so calculate estimate accepts 3 arguments, and they are in order: previous estimate, which is a number, that is the last estimated purchase interval; days since last purchase, which is also a number, and that would be the number of days that have elapsed between the date last purchase and now. And you'll have to figure out how to calculate this argument. Total purchases is a number, that should be the total number of purchases for the item. And you should be able to get that from Firebase as well. Given this information, calculate estimate returns a whole number, indicating the number of days that the user is likely to, well, until the user is likely to make next purchase. So bear in mind, you're just getting a number here. You will have to figure out how to calculate that date, or what that future date should look like. Yeah. All right, any questions? Because I'm sure there will be several. Oh, all good. All right, and any volunteers for this week's issues?
I think
I wanna-
I was gonna say I think Tisha should choose.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think so too.
She hasn't said anything this whole time.
I kind of got
Yeah.
to like put my 2 cents in last week and like take that one, so I'm gonna let it for Tisha too.
All right, 1 second.
I mean, I think I'd like to do issue 10, just because I haven't, like, the last one wasn't as challenging. If you're up to it, Jeremiah.
Whatever you want to do. All the rest of us have picked already, so I feel like it's your turn.
Yeah, if that's good, then I'd like to choose 10.
Yeah, so the teams for this week would be Tish and Jeremiah, and Yao and Catherine. So Tisha, what was your choice? Sorry, I missed that.
Number 10.
Number 10. All right, so I will assign. All right, and all right, so the issues have been assigned. All right, any questions, comments, queries about anything?
How should we proceed about these bugs that we have found?
Can we do a real quick steps to repro on both of them? And just so we have the context fresh in here with how we're talking about them.
You're asking for that right now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the 2 different bugs that I know of, if you go into the add item.
Actually, would it be possible to share so we can all see it as well?
Oh, sure, I can do that if we want. It's this one. Okay. So if I'm on the add item page, this is, I believe our branch from last week. Catherine and mine. So here's my test list. And then if I click add item, it shows the message because it's blank. But if I type in like blueberries, there's no message, even though in the code, message is getting set there. But because something's going on with the loader, the message isn't showing, the state's like getting reset. If you console.log message, it just prints it as null again. And then the other one that Yao pointed out today is if I'm, I was trying it and I checked a bunch of these. If you have something typed into filter and then you check, all of them get unchecked because this state is getting refreshed also.
All right, so I have a suggestion, which would be the first one looks vaguely correlated to item 10 in that it is kind of going with the it's not really, I was trying to massage that into like saying like, oh, it goes with the next purchased bit.
Are you suggesting like both of the groups like take one of them?
Yeah, I was kind of trying to make it go that way, but trying to think it through in a way that made sense, and I'm not sure I'm talking myself into it very well as I'm thinking through it. So the other thing we could do is kind of write them up as an actual bug, and then we can get to them as nice to haves if we're feeling ahead of the game. I'm hesitant to do that because I don't want to make anyone feel like they have to do more work for this extracurricular activity of ours and the 5 hours that we've asked of people for a week than they might normally. So I would say like only if you're ahead of the game would I suggest wanting to jump on and tackle that stuff for now. We'll have some more time kind of later when we're doing the look and feel of the application to not only style everything, but handle some of the stuff as well. So we could say, hey, let's get issues out for them so that we have them and we can grab them as we're ready. Or we could say we're getting pretty close to, we're getting closer to like the later half or the later quarter of the project where it'll be a little bit more free form and give us the opportunity to squash some stuff. But that would mean that you'd have to be dealing with a bug backlog in addition to the time you want to be spending on the look and feel and the creative aspect of this. So how do we feel about that? Do we feel like trying to squeeze in the bug behavior stuff now would detract from the work that we're trying to do? Or basically, should we try and squeak it in now or try and sneak it in later?
So I feel like, I think obviously our priority should be the stories that are already assigned, right? Let's see how far we can get with that. Make sure that goes through no problem, PR reviewed and everything like that. And then I think we should make separate tissues for those 2 bugs as individual. And then, one team, depending on how far we get, we can pick those up along the way. The goal is I want to say like we want to finish and get rid of these before we start talking about the look and the feel of it, because that at that time I think we all really should be just focusing on the styling and not be worrying about bugs, which can kind of change the styling later as well. I feel like it would impact the the final style. So I feel like with these bugs, right, just so that we don't go over like the 5 hours per week, right, we could kind of work on them as we go, right? Like there's no hard deadline, but we should try to get those out. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make
Ish,
sense?
kind of.
Yeah.
So you're saying, let's keep track of them, but squash your issues
Yes,
that we've got going.
exactly. I mean, in the real world, as far as I've seen developers like not finish what they've been committed to, and it just gets pushed out to the next sprint, right? In this case, it's kind of like that. You're trying to commit it to this, but we have priority 1 and then priority 2. That's where my mindset is.
The other thing is too, I think we have to figure out, and maybe we can do this as a team. I know we'll set it into bugs, but it was just kind of taking Jeremiah and I a little bit longer to come up with a solution that would keep the loader and make sure the message is being captured. We do know that if we take that loader piece out, the message is fine. I know we want to keep that in, but if we get to a point like, so I guess coming up with a solution that would keep the loader without the flicker and also do that, that's what we were struggling to find. If we get to a point where we're like, okay, we can't figure this out, we ideally we would have both solutions, but we know how to get the message back and not re-render the component. Yeah, I'm not sure. So we may have to think about that at some point too.
There's a longer discussion around how do we time box things, as a common industry practice was saying, like, I'm going to allow myself an hour to solve this problem. And if I can't solve this problem in an hour, then I'm going to bail and say, I know what I can do instead, and we're going to go do that. And that's a fairly common activity because a lot of times we don't actually know how long it's going to take to do the thing we want to do, but we want to give it a shot, but not like, spend forever trying to figure it out. So it's a pretty common thing as well. And I like that thought. So we have a fallback for the loader issue. We think we can get that one taken care of. Not quite sure on the other one what I would do off the top of my head, but
So
it's all right.
should we just do like some create issues in GitHub for those new ones and just maybe just tag them as bugs or enhancements, or at least the optional ones?
Yeah.
So at least you can keep track of what has to be done, and even if you decide to continue work on the app in the future, privately, at least what at least you are aware of what issues exist within the app.
I like
No, I
that.
Okay. So the only other question then would be who's actually going to slap them into the GitHub issues, to which I say I can probably do that unless anybody has a real hankering to want to try and take a swing at throwing something out there.
I can try the data filtering one. I already was looking into it, but I haven't gotten, debugging it like the way you were showing me, Lon. I think that would probably be helpful just to trace the steps.
Okay. So you're gonna actually add an issue into GitHub?
Oh, you mean make it? Yeah, I can make it. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I can make it, and then I guess like I'm not gonna assign it until like we're done with our story, and then maybe me and Tisha can talk about it. I mean, me and Catherine can talk about it.
The one thing about bugs is that usually like project issues and stories usually come from the product owner, the product people, the manager and stuff. They're the ones who write that up. The bugs are typically found by other testers or other developers and are usually written up by them because they're the one who found it and can tell you how to make it happen again, which is usually the most important part in fixing bugs. There's only way I say that. Don't stress about that at first. Let's get started on our issues. Let's not let that drop. But yeah, let's cover that in Slack. I think we can kind of talk through and say, hey, what do we think about that? So maybe we can just start an additional thread for bug creation and have that going on in there.
I had something real quick that I was just playing around, and I don't know, I've tried to do a hard refresh, but our actual main branch, when I actually go to this, to what we just merged together, when you're on the when you're on the list and it's prompting you to add the item, it's not taking me anywhere. So I just opened up the console and it's saying reference error navigate is not defined. So I think we're just missing a piece of the code, maybe from the merge, because this wasn't happening when we were testing. So I don't know if it's happening for anybody else, but for me, when you click on add item, it doesn't bring you anywhere and it gives you a reference error. I don't know if anybody else wants to try our live main branch.
I thought I was just getting stuck in a cache.
That's what I thought too. And I did a couple hard refreshes because this happened to us last time where it just like wasn't loading the new stuff. But
Like when you click the link on the bottom?
no, so when you remove your the token and you just start from fresh and then add a new, so don't be in my test list, you add a new, like, so basically testing out the story that when Tisha just did, add a brand new list that's empty. it prompts you in the add list, in the list to add the item. I can show you guys here. If that's helpful.
Is that in the deployment or locally?
Oh, yeah, mine's doing the same thing.
So here, when you actually go to add the item, it just says navigate's not defined.
Okay.
So I think it might have just maybe I have to look at the code.
It seems like it's just like not imported or something.
Where's my,
I can take a look at that later.
okay, cool.
Yeah, I see what you're saying
Checking out.
too. So cool. We got
Okay.
some fun stuff. All right. So what I'm gonna do is after we're done here, I'm gonna kick off the normal pair bot thready bits to do the normal work. And then I'll just start another thread in Slack about bugs, and let's talk through these and get a thread going on that. And we will eventually get them documented, and then we can pick at them. If you guys are rock stars and you're like, man, we're done with our issue, then like, yeah, let's go squash the bug backlog. Awesome. Or if you're like, hey man, this is taking time, we got to defer these till later, then we'll defer it till later. But there you go. All right. That all covered. Any last bits?
Yes. I know we're going over time, but this is something that me and Jeremiah were talking about the last time we worked together, is that, we are gonna come to a close for our project. And I think we should start thinking about like, the styles and how we want our project to look overall. And with React, there are a multitude of, third-party libraries out there, like I think Chakra, Material UI, which I have used, like Ant, right? And I think I took a peek at the last story, and I think one of the things that we were going to do there is decide on what we want to do, like which library we want to use, right? Jeremiah did bring up the fact that if we decide to use a library rather than just CSS modules, right, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for all of us, especially if you haven't used it. So I want to take this time to like just bring up this fact, and then I know it's going to go past the hour, so it is completely optional. But for you to think about one, the color scheme, because each library also has like their default colors. Obviously that could be changed, but also like styles in terms of like, font styles, things like that, how things look. Think about what you want, what library might fit your needs, or also if you just want to scratch all of that, just do CSS. But just kind of, have a general idea at this point, and then we can reconvene next week and talk about it.
We're going to want to talk about that stuff a lot. So it's a good idea
Yeah.
to start thinking about it now.
Yeah.
We will definitely have more conversations around that. Chewing on it is a bit, let's focus on the other things as the main bit, but having things like that is on your back burner item. It's always good. I get things churning so that we have opinions on it when it comes time to ask about them. Okay. Anything else before we wrap? Cool. All right, everybody. Good work. We are officially halfway through. So, that was the easy half, of course. Now we're going to get into the hard half. So everybody, strap in. All right. I'm going to stop the recording now. You guys are doing great. Keep it up.
Go team.
Thanks,
Thank you, thank you.
everyone. Have a
Yeah.
good week.